Good evening. I'd like to open tonight's meeting of the Queensbury Zoning Board of Appeals, September 16th, 2020. I'd like to point out for safety sake, there are two exits to the north here, probably the doors where you came in. There's a exit on the far end of the south, and there are two exits to the east behind me. If you haven't been here before, our procedure is quite simple. There should have been an agenda on the table where you entered. What will happen here is we'll call each case up to the podium. We'll read the case into our record. We'll allow the presenter to answer or give any other detail that might be pertinent. We'll ask questions of the presenter. If a public hearing has been advertised, then we'll open the public hearing and take input from the public, both here and from the phone or call-in. At that particular time, we'll close the public hearing, poll the board, see how they stand on the case, and then we'll proceed from there. But first, I have a couple of administrative issues to take care of, and so John, I need a motion on the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 19th, 2020.
So I have a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Ron seconded the motion. Call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Kuehl?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Eureka?
Yes.
Mr. Henkel?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
And I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 26, 2020.
I have a motion. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Michelle seconded. Call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Kuehl?
Yes.
Mr. Henkel?
Yes.
Mr. Eureka?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes. So our first case is AV 21-2020, Greg Ball and Julie Austin. Roy?
The applicant proposes to construct a 740 square foot shed on the property. The existing home is 1,440 square feet with an attached 616 square foot garage, a 616 square foot porch, and patio area. The relief requested is for an oversized shed per section 179-5-020 sheds. The applicant proposes to construct a 740 square foot shed where the maximum sheds on the property for lots 3 acres or less is 2 sheds totaling no more than 500 square feet. In considering this area variance, the criteria according to Chapter 267 of Town Law, in making a determination, the board shall consider 5 criteria. 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detrimental to nearby properties be created by the granting of this area variance. Minor to no impacts to the neighborhood may be anticipated. 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Feasible alternatives may be considered to reduce the size of the shed. The applicant has indicated the bike shed will be removed. 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. The request for relief may be considered minimal relevant to the code. The relief requested is 240 square feet. 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. Minor to no impact to the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood may be anticipated. And 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. The difficulty may be considered self-created. Staff comments. The applicant proposes to construct a 740 square foot shed for storage of items that cannot fit in the garage or home. There is an existing attached garage of 902 square feet used for vehicle storage and house lawn maintenance. The shed is also items are stored in the interior of the yard area.
It's supposed to be 720, but I think we did make the change. Not 740 square feet, 720.
This is revised
Yeah.
Right.
Revised, because it was
But-
revised from the last time,
It's
but
24 by 30.
Okay.
Laura can testify that she made a math error, if we could hear it.
It was the understudy that did it.
So,
So it is, it's
Mr. Ball, would you like to come forward?
720.
So just as the applicants, when you are done at the podium, we're going to ask that you wipe down the podium and wipe down the microphone with the wipes provided there.
Okay.
So do we have anything to add to this? We talked about this pretty extensively the last time.
Correct. My name's Greg Ball. Some of the background is we're combining two households, so that's the reason is more stuff and we need the storage and we're trying to do it the best way for the neighborhood as well. Two homes.
So do we have any questions of the applicant?
I've got a question. Now, I know the footprint is 720, but why isn't when it's got a second story of storage, which equals about 360 square feet, why isn't that added in this total square footage?
Because that would be considered floor area.
Right?
That's not part of the application,
Just okay, just the footprint.
just the footprint.
I have a question more of staff. Sorry, I didn't look it up myself, but what is the required permeability on this site?
So it's in a PUD, and so and I apologize that wasn't a determination within the review of this.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
right, so it's a different calculation than the other zones, which are have a chart to go with them.
Oh, okay. So I just kind of was curious where we were relative to the required permeability.
So Ron, you had a question?
I did it, she's finished.
Oh, she's done.
You putting any water or electric in this shed?
I'd like to put electric, no water.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, a public hearing has been advertised, and so at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing and see if there's anybody in the audience who has input on this case, or invite anybody on the outside to give us a call at 518-761-8225. You can sit down, Greg.
Okay. Thank you.
We have to wait 2 minutes to allow people from the outside to call in. We've had all sorts of suggestions as to how to occupy this 2 minutes, but we've rejected them all.
No music?
Is there anything written, Roy?
No.
There's no support, you had no support of your neighbors on this project?
No one had any issues, they were more the ones I talked to.
So, hearing no input from the public, I'm going to close the public hearing at this particular time. I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with John.
Yeah, I've been around the neighborhood, I really haven't seen any other sheds of that size. I do have a problem a little bit with the height of it, because now you got a building that's gonna be, even though it's not really, can't be seen back there, but you've got a height of 22 feet. And most sheds are, you know, in that development, or the ones that do have sheds are, you know, they're only 12 feet high roughly. So I have a little bit of problem with the height, and I'd rather see them get closer to the 500 square feet that's acceptable for the size shed for that size of the land. He has less than 3 acres, he's got less than an acre, so it kind of doesn't fit the code, so I would not be in favor of project as is.
Ron?
No, I have no problem with the project as presented. I would grant this variance. I'm in favor.
Michelle?
I'm also in favor. I was in favor prior.
Kathy?
I would be in favor, considering he sort of complied with the lot that we had discussed the last time.
Jim?
All the lots over in Indian Ridge are pretty large, and that was the whole purpose of creating it when they did the subdivision. I don't have a problem with the request.
Roy?
I have a little problem with the height, but not enough to reject it, so I'd be in favor of the project.
And I, too, will support the project since the applicant is doing kind of what we told him to do to relieve us of having to decide on a second garage. So it looks like we got to go here, so I'm going to ask Kathy for a motion.
Oh, okay. Did we take an actual vote, though?
You gotta make the motion first.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So, concerning the area variance 2-1-2020 for Greg Ball and Julie Austin, regarding 740 square foot shed.
It's actually 720.
Oh, I must be, okay, I'm reading what they had. Okay, so it's been changed, I'll rectify that, a 720 square foot shed, where the maximum sheds on the property of these 3 lots or less is 2 sheds, totaling no more than 500. This change is not considered undesirable in the character of the neighborhood, nor a detriment to nearby properties. It seems to be consistent with some of the other sheds in the neighborhood. Feasible alternatives, well, obviously he could do a smaller square footage shed there, but this has been considered by the board, and we feel that the request is reasonable. The requested variance is substantial, as it is over 200 feet more than the maximum of 500. There is not necessarily an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood nor the district. The alleged difficulty is self-created. In addition, the board finds that the benefit to the applicant from the granting of the requested variance would outweigh the resulting detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or the community as a whole. The board finds that this variance request under consideration for the purposes of the applicant is the minimum necessary. There are no conditions to attach to this approval. So based on the above findings, I do make the motion to approve the area variance, number 21-2020.
So we have a motion, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Michelle, seconded. Call the vote, please.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhl?
Yes.
Mr. Hankel?
No.
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes?
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes?
Mr. Yuriko?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes.
Need any of these back?
Congratulations. So our next case is AV 28-2020, Sherwood Acres Construction, 3 Glen Hall Drive.
The applicant requests to maintain 617 square foot of hard surface area in the driveway area. In addition, the applicant is 107 square feet of new concrete sidewalk with retaining wall for the parking area to the home. The parking area addition was to assist with the shared driveway access. The parcel was part of the previous approvals for new home construction and associated site work in 2018 for area variance and site plan project, subject to site plan modification of an approved plan. Relief requested for permeability is per section 179-3-040, dimensional requirements. The applicant is proposing a permeability of 63.1%, where 75% is required, and previously approved was 69.5%. In looking at the criteria, staff says that minor to no impacts to the neighborhood character may be anticipated. Feasible alternatives may be available to reduce the amount of hard surfacing. The relief requested may be considered substantial relevant to the code. Relief is requested 11.9% less permeable surface. Minor to no impact to the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood may be anticipated, and the applicant has indicated the additional hard surfacing in the parking area will assist with stormwater for the existing property and the neighboring properties. The difficulty may be considered self-created. Staff comments, the applicant requests to maintain the existing hard surfacing on the site near the parking area. This includes additional permeable paver area and asphalt. The 2018 approval for the parcel included a new home and associated site work that has been completed. The applicant has indicated the hard surfacing was to assist with the neighboring property. And then the planning board made a recommendation to the zoning board for this variance, and based on its limited review, did identify the following areas of concern. The increased FAR request, which was explained by the client's need for handicap accessibility.
That's the wrong,
Wrong one.
That was wrong.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Never mind.
wait,
The planning board, based on its limited review, did not identify any significant adverse impacts that cannot be mitigated with the current project proposal, and that was passed 7-0 on September 15th.
Good evening, Tom Center, the project engineer for this. Mr. Barber, who's the owner and builder of Sherwood Acres, is here today in the audience. If you remember, those of you that were on the board when this project came before, it was a little contentious with the neighborhood. That's why we had the request to add the dry well in front of the Burke property to try to take care of some stormwater from shared driveways. There's a shared driveway that goes on Mr. Makoviak's property that kind of crosses this, plus Mr. Gansel's access is across this parcel. Mr. Seavey, who originally got the original project, decided not to build on here. He sold the land and the project to Mr. Barber and Sherwood Acres. So Mr. Barber is coming in on the backside. Some of the things, his experience with building on the lake actually brought a lot of good things to this project that weren't in the initial approval. I'll kind of go over through those and then hit the issues with the variance. Down along the shoreline with the grassed area, at the very edge of the shoreline, Mr. Barber left 3 to 4 feet of natural vegetation instead of going right up to the lake shore with grass. So there's natural vegetation. As you know, this land was vacant prior to, it had an old foundation on it, but it was a vacant in disrepair. So he thinned out that vegetation, left it there. So there is a little bit of a natural 3-4 foot buffer, except where you access the dock, and that's just river rock there, so that you can get to the dock. So there's no hard surface. There's no hard surface added between the house and the lake. As you move up to the house, the original plan had eave trenches that filtered down to the bottom to an infiltration trench on either side of the patio, the permeable patio that interconnected the infiltration stone underneath that. In lieu of doing that, Mr. Barber asked if he could change that around and gutter the roof and take it to 2 infiltrators. So we actually took the stormwater away from the lake, back towards the roadside, and put it back in the ground further away from the lake. So we did an improvement there. With the sidewalks, the original design was a 3-tiered concrete wall type of step down with concrete steps. I had envisioned mulch paths. I did not show those clearly on the drawing. I take some partial responsibility for not showing those paths in between. Mr. Barber, when he purchased this and started working on it, with his experience in Glen Lake, put sidewalks in. It amounts to a little bit more than, it amounts to 107 square feet extra of hard surface there. But when he did that, he also changed the wall from concrete walls to boulder rock retaining walls, which also have rock underneath them, which allow any of the stormwater falling on those to infiltrate better. And we have well-drained soils here, so we've increased the permeability around those areas rather than grass. Those rock tiered walls, it's more of a landscape thing that he changed with his knowledge of Glen Lake building. So we do have infiltration for those sidewalks getting down to the house on either side. There's additional stone drainage. As you come up to the parking area, one of the things that we could not have envisioned at the time was when Mr. Barber came in, being a builder, he was working with neighbors on both sides. Mr. Gansel, to the north here, had a project that was a minor project, didn't require site plan review, that he asked Mr. Barber if he could do it. So what ended up happening was Mr. Barber put in pervious pavers right there, and in the thought of not trying to leave a grass strip between Mr. Gansel's new pervious pavers and our new pervious pavers, he installed pervious pavers all the way across, thinking he would get 100% credit, but it's really 50% credit. They're porous stone pavers.
Can I just interrupt you for a minute and ask staff, is it standard practice for any impervious paver to be 50%, or did they take a look at the type of pavers that the applicant used here?
So the permeable pavers, and they provide a detail showing the capacity underneath each paver. So that was considered as 50, all permeable pavers, as long as they provide that detail of what that permeable paver is, and I get to see that in the plans, those are counted as 50%.
Because those are pretty substantial. They're not like the normal
Correct. We also
impervious pavers that we see. I would say that they're better than grass.
Yeah, we don't
in my opinion.
We don't take into consideration in our volume calculation the stone, the depth between the top of the paver and the bottom, that stone void. That's extra. We don't take that in. We just take the volume that's underneath the pavers as our actual storage volume. And as you can see, we have plenty of storage volume underneath there. Having them all tied in together, we actually improved Mr. Gansel's property over there, and the issue with, driving and turning and the very tight nature of that site. Had Mr. Barber, been developing this property, I would have loved to have his knowledge of lake work and what he did there. I don't know if everybody's been up there to see the terraced rock walls, but they look better than the straight line concrete walls that I had on the drawing. He did an excellent job with the landscaping on here, and that's with years of building on Glen Lake. The issue with the asphalt was, in order to provide, turning and getting in and getting out, he installed a little bit too much pavement. It works out to 391 square feet. But on the positive side, the dry well that we located down in front of Mr. Burke's house that would be, the additional storage that would be required would be 80 cubic feet of storage. That dry well has 130 cubic feet of capacity, so we have excess capacity down there. Another benefit of this, working with Mr. Gansel and Mr. Makoviak, this was initially designed with holding tanks that would have been up into that paved area. Those holding tanks were able to be eliminated because Mr. Barber was able to purchase land from Mr. Makoviak over here, and he has a approved septic system that's more than 200 feet. So rather than having holding tanks, he's got a septic system for this house. So he was able to improve that also. And then he also improved the boulder wall on the back side of the driveway area here that kind of goes with Gansel and Makoviak. Makoviak's driveway is here. This is the shared driveway here. This area right here, Mr. Barber shored up, cleaned up, had some erosion to it. Now with those stone walls and the stone behind it, is able to resist any erosion, so it actually improves the look at it, and the parking area, I think, flows between the two of them much better. And I would look at it as, if we had brought this to the board initially, I believe it's a very approvable project. It improves the character of the neighborhood. Mr. Barber worked with 3 or 4 neighbors, in a very difficult location. So I'd be willing to take any questions.
The other thing is, we really appreciate you clearly marked the idea of the property. Some of the
Yeah.
properties in there are hard to determine what's what, so thank you for that.
No problem.
So do we have questions of the applicant? Ron?
So you're coming here after the fact, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You are. Why weren't there more pervious pavers put in instead of asphalt? And by the way, the fact that he eliminated the tanks, Makoviak bought the property from Barber, so there was linkage there for him to get the septic system in, right?
Correct.
So get over the fact that, he eliminated the tanks. It was a need for the house. And in addition to the asphalt, my question about pavers, the concrete that he went and did, which was definitely not in what was approved, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Pavers, my question.
As you get closer to the driveway slopes away, pavers work much better on the flat surface to incorporate the stone storage.
As I remember the site, the place where the people that bought the house parked their cars is level, and that's asphalt, correct?
No, the levelest part is the location where the permeable pavers are, and then it starts to slope back where it's actually paved.
I see. And of course, you came up with a maintenance schedule for the pavers, right?
Well, those are different. You wouldn't want to put a vac truck on those.
Right.
Put a what?
A vac truck.
Yeah, you have stone in there.
Pea stone in there.
These are a little different. This is like these pavers, I have an open course that is filled with stone in
Right.
between them versus the pavers that we initially had spec'd out are just a closed paver that have pores in the paver themselves. So it's less likely, the sediment will get in, but will go down, through the stone to the
You're
stone.
suggesting that all the road sand is going to go through that?
Well, it's on the applicant or the owner to not sand those areas.
Well, hello,
Excuse me?
hello. I mean, come on. Okay.
I mean, that's the trade-off with permeable pavers. Hopefully, over time, when you look at these things, they actually let the water go through until you get a frost, the water will go through till they get iced over. So they do have, some benefit.
They're still better
that
than
they
the
don't
permeable
use.
pavers, though. There's no
But
doubt.
unless the people that put this product in maintains it, everything requires maintenance. When the lawn grows, you cut it.
Correct.
When you put in pavers, you got to clean them. Yes or no?
On the ones that are porous pavers that are a harder surface, yes. On these, if you were to bring a vac truck in, you're gonna suck the gravel that's open graded, that's within the openings.
You think so?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. If you're up there to see it,
Yeah.
it has the possibility to do that, so.
Okay.
What we tell people is not to sand and salt them, that, they have to plow them. And a lot of them will, and they'll keep some heat to them too. But once they freeze over, it's the Northeast. It's a trade-off of trying to do the right thing with permeable surfaces and being in the Northeast.
You're talking about doing the right thing. The person you represented went and did hard surfacing without a permit, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, public hearing has been advertised this evening, so at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing. Invite anybody who wants to call in to do so at 518-761-8225, and see if there's anybody in the audience who would like to talk to the board on this project.
Good evening. My name's Bernie Gansel. Me and my wife live at 5 Glen Hall Drive, right next to 3 Glen Hall Drive. We have shared driveway access with 3 Glen Hall Drive. We share a right-of-way up the hill. Both driveways were paved at the same time so that all the water drainage from the top of both lots could drain away from Glen Lake. We support any variances that would allow the current driveway configuration to remain unchanged. Since the driveways were paved this spring, all the water runoff from the top of both lots have been directed away from the lake and into the holding tank, just like it was designed to do. I'd also like to discuss the green space between the parking areas. I would oppose putting that in for 3 reasons. No green space currently provides a single paved area to allow cars to turn around and drive forward down the shared right-of-way. Without this ability, we would have to back down the driveway. It's 150 feet to the Glen Hall Road extension before we could turn around. This is difficult to do, and at night, it's even more difficult to do. It's a very narrow right-of-way down there. Secondly, adding the green area separating the paved area would create a maintenance problem and would create a mud hole every time it rains. And parking for Glen Hall Drive is very tight, and removing even a little bit of area would make parking even tighter.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do we have anything written on this, Roy?
Yes. Below are my comments in support of the subject application. I am one of the 3 property owners that share use of the private road Glen Hall Drive right-of-way in the vicinity of 3 Glen Hall Drive. 1, the additional hard surfacing in the parking area is providing access to the new parking spot at 5 Glen Hall Drive, i.e. adjacent Gansel property. If grass was used in this location, there would eventually be only dirt remaining from driving and turning on the grass strip while parking at the new spot at 5 Glen Hall Drive. 2, the decrease of site permeability will easily be mitigated by the new dry well previously installed under this project. The dry well was a condition for approval of the site plan for 3 Glen Hall Drive. The dry well was located on my property as recommended by the engineer of record in order to maximize the amount of water collected. In the past, this stormwater eventually found its way into Glen Lake during heavy rainfalls. Thank you, Ronald Makoviak, 9 Glen Hall Drive. The second one is, as the owner of the 96 Hall Road and an adjacent lot, the construction of this 3 Glen Hall Drive home has been problematic for me. The construction crews have not been observant or respectful of my land and lot boundaries since the beginning. They have parked on my land, removed boundary markers, and willfully destroyed planted and natural vegetation for this construction convenience. Van Dusen and Steves has, under my direction, repeatedly reestablished the land and easement boundaries multiple times. My request is that all parties be on notice that this has happened, previously reported, and cannot happen again with this additional work. And that's Vicki Johnson. That's it.
So, do you want to come back up? So, do you have any comment on the construction problems?
That's an ongoing issue with multiple neighbors. And during the construction, the backhoe was parked on in a right-of-way that all parties had access to. I don't know what they're talking about with the boundaries that were moved on the other parcel, but I know it's a tight neighborhood and issues during construction arise, but I believe that's an ongoing issue with multiple parties that was there.
The construction's done, right?
The construction is done, yes.
So at this particular time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with Jim.
Yeah, I think, this personifies, you know, the typical situation we run into on these smaller lots where everybody has shared access, you know, it's always an inconvenience during the time of building, and I think that we have to keep in mind what the end product is and whether it's acceptable or whether it improves the situation that previously exists on the property. In my book, even though the permeability has been decreased on this property, above and beyond what was originally permitted, I think that, you know, it was done with the interest in Glen Lake, you know, I mean, you're caught between a rock and a hard place no matter what you do, and when you go overboard, I think, you know, it should be pointed out that it was overdone, but at the same time, the end result of what we have here is that, you know, we actually improve the situation as far as ground runoff into the lake, and I think that in this instance here, I think we should grant the variance.
Roy?
Yeah, I'm basically in agreement with Jim. I think sometimes the statistics don't tell the whole story. And taking a step back and looking at the project as a whole and what's been done there, even though it's after the fact, I think this has turned out pretty well, and I would be in favor of it.
John?
Yeah, generally, I wouldn't be in favor of granting 11.9 permeability, you know, but as far as the reduction there, and going against what we had pre-approved. But after listening to Jim and Roy and Mr. Center and Mr. Gansel, I think it's definitely a good project, and they did the best they could with what they've got there with the driveways going across the property, and of course you got the septic tank away from a septic leach field away from the lake, which is a great thing. So I would be on board with it as is.
Ron?
Well, I think we spent an awful lot of time on this originally in 2018, and they came back several times, and they developed a plan. An applicant came and they developed a plan to say, this is what we're going to do. As they went along, as things changed, they had plenty of time to come here and ask for relief. We may be known as the town of no, because a lot of people get turned away. But there's no reason to do things and come afterwards and ask for forgiveness. I am not in favor of this. I understand, I know that that builder builds a very good house, but he had more than ample time to come when he was wanting to make these improvements and get approval beforehand. As far as I'm concerned, this is an indication of builders doing what they want and then coming forward and say, okay, slap my wrist. I'm not in favor.
Michelle?
I'm in agreement with Mr. Kuehl. And primarily, it's too substantial. And the fact that it came in after the fact, I find egregious.
Kathy?
I'm torn because I do agree with the fact that I don't like after the fact approvals, but I also see an improvement here in terms of erosion control and sediment and all of that. So I think for the sake of the fact that it's not just benefiting this applicant, it's benefiting the neighbors as well, but I would probably vote in favor.
And I too am troubled with applications that come in after the fact, but in this particular case, I can't deny that the neighborhood feels that this was a definite improvement. And so I'll go along with the neighborhood and support the project. So at this particular time, I'm going to ask Jim for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve area variance 28-2020 at 3 Glen Hall Drive. Having listened to the application from Sherwood Acres Construction, they're requesting to maintain 617 square feet of hard surface area in the driveway area. In addition, the applicant has 107 square feet of new concrete sidewalk with retaining wall for the parking areas of the home. The parking area addition was to assist with the shared driveway access with Gansel's next door. The parcel was part of previous approvals for new construction. As far as the applicant's request for relief from permeability, The applicant is proposing permeability of 63.1%, where 75% is required, and previously we had approved 69.5%. As far as the variance goes, that there will not be any undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood nor detriment to nearby properties. The water that will be generated by this excess paving in the back is somewhat mitigated by the fact that there's permeable pavers between there and the lake. There's also a substantial dry well that was created on the Burke property next door. And that's going to be collecting that rainwater that will be generated. As far as feasible alternatives, the board usually requests that people follow the guidelines, but in this instance here, they deviated from the original approved determination of 69.5% and created slightly more impermeability. As far as the request being substantial, we do determine that it would be substantial because they're significantly below the 75%, but we understand the fact that on these smaller lots with shared access that it creates more impermeable surface, and we just have to live with that, I suppose, at this point. As far as an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood, we do not note any because it seems that everything has been adequately dealt with as far as the runoff goes. As far as the difficulty being self-created, yes, it is self-created because the contractor overstepped what was originally granted. In addition, the board finds the benefit to the applicant from the granting of the request outweighs any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood, and in this instance, we're talking about Glen Lake, and it will be protected fully. The board finds the variance under request is the minimum necessary, and based upon these findings, I make a motion to approve the variance 28-2020.
So I have a motion, could I have a second?
I'll second.
John? Call the vote, please.
Mr. Kuehl?
No?
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayward?
No.
Mr. Eureka?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Hankel?
Yes.
Mr. McCabe?
Yes. Congratulations. And you're getting pretty good at your podium wiping there. Do you want any of the paperwork? So our next case is AV 29-2020, Stephanie Card, 1118 Bay Road.
The applicant proposes to maintain an existing 912 about square foot footprint of 1,482 square foot area, second dwelling. The existing site has 2,170 square foot home and a 7,714 square foot barn. The barn and home have been on the property since about 1860. The applicant purchased the lot with all of the buildings in the current configuration. There are no changes proposed to the site. Relief requested for a second dwelling, that's per section 179-3-040. Dimensional requirements. The applicant proposes to maintain a second home of 912 square feet as the property was purchased with the second building as is. In looking at the criteria, the project may be considered to have little to no impact on the neighboring properties as there are no changes to the site. The feasible alternatives may be feasible to remove the elements of the second dwelling. The applicant has indicated the building is used as a garage, workout space, and an entertainment space. The relief may be considered substantial relevant to the code. Relief is requested to have a second dwelling unit where only one is allowed. The project as proposed may be considered to have minimal to no impact on the environmental conditions of the site or area, and the project as proposed may be considered self-created. Staff comments. The applicant requests to maintain a second dwelling on the site where an existing home and a barn also exists. The applicant has indicated when they purchased the property, the second dwelling already existed and they were unaware of the requirements. They applied for and received a deck permit, and at that time, the applicant was notified of the code requirements for one dwelling per property. The applicant is applying for this variance to have a second dwelling. The applicant has indicated the building is not to be used as a rental and is to be used only by them for a garage, workout area, and an entertainment space. The survey shows the existing barn, home, and the two-story garage location. That's it.
So staff, did this arise because the property was sold, or would the original owner have had to come for a variance when this particular zoning was adopted?
So what took place was the applicant had applied for a deck permit to this building. They received their deck permit and investigated by building and codes. They determined that there was interior work that was completed, turning this into a second dwelling. And so that is why, and when my understanding is that there was sort of a kitchen setup at some point in that building, not known by building and codes, and that applicant that now owns that building had improved upon that kitchen area. So that, and again, the reason why it was in play, why it was caught, was because they applied for a deck permit.
So do we have the applicant?
What do you want to know?
Your name?
George Lawyer.
And is there, I guess it's fairly straightforward, do you have anything to add?
This is anecdotal, but when we bought the property, we did a lot of renovations in the house, and we actually lived over there for about 6 months. And my experience, having lived there for 6 months, it's a very unacceptable second dwelling. It was very inconvenient living there.
Well, it's the fact that it has a kitchen is what
Yeah.
makes it a second dwelling.
Yeah.
So I guess, how important is the kitchen?
I mean, we use it, basically when we entertain, we use that kitchen. And if we entertain on Friday and don't want to clean the kitchen until Tuesday of the next week, we're good.
So do we have further questions of the applicant?
Yeah, so it sounds like what Laura was saying, that there was some improvements, according to the code enforcer, that there was some improvements made to that kitchen that were
Yeah, we
made after.
put all new appliances in, both in the kitchen and in the bathroom.
So what was there when you moved in?
Everything except a stove. The only thing we added functionally was a stove.
So,
We tapped into existing plumbing. When we bought, I don't know what was in it when the prior owner left it, but when we moved in, we had a washer and dryer, a microwave, a refrigerator, sink, bathroom, we're all there.
so what did you put in for a stove? Did you put a propane, or did you put?
Okay, yeah.
But was there a propane line there for that stove?
There was a propane line for the, I don't know what you call it, we have geothermal.
Right.
And in the winter, water, geothermal is very inefficient.
In this area?
So basically, we had a gas heat exchanger in the geothermal unit. So we had, propane was there.
Yeah, so you're still using that propane for that heater and the oven now?
Yes.
Okay.
And the way that unit goes, the hot water for the heat exchanger comes from a instant-on hot water heater. So the domestic hot water and the geothermal hot water are the same unit.
Okay.
The building has 2 floors?
Yes.
When did you purchase the property?
14.
When, Laura, when did we buy it, do you know?
2014.
About 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
I think so. I think that's what we determined.
Yeah, I got 2014.
Yeah, that would be about right, 5, 6 years ago.
So you were aware that was a residence when you moved in then, right? Because you were moving.
But yeah, we lived there when we moved in. Yes, we were.
Entertained there, so you knew it could sustain another residence, right?
Yeah. It didn't ring a bell for us until we got the deck thing going.
Until the deck thing,
Yeah.
project started.
So there was no proof, Laura, previous to this, that it was ever income property, used as an income property or anything?
No, because it was approved under the building permit as a garage. So, no, I don't, you know, it was inspected as a garage, and what that previous owner did to it after the garage was permitted, and we've seen this happen, it
Yeah.
took place where they upgraded it to additional items in the building. I mean, really, the bottom floor is a garage, and the upstairs is what they're using it for now.
Other questions of the applicant?
I have one of Laura.
Mm-hmm.
What is the zoning here?
This is waterfront residential.
Okay. By any chance, is it in an ag district?
No.
No.
So a public hearing has been advertised, so at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing. And I'm going to invite anyone from the outside to, who has input on this project to give us a call at 518-761-8225. And then I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the audience who would like to present information on this particular project.
Good evening.
State your name for the
My name
record.
is John V. Curry, and I'm representing my wife, Laura Curry, and myself. We live at 1133 Bay Road, which is directly across the road, across Bay Road, from the 1118 Bay Road property that's at question here. Our home, as I say, is directly across the road, and we enjoy the view of the property at 1118 Bay Road, as well as the mountains of Vermont beyond and everything. So when I say here that George Lawyer and Stephanie Picard have done a commendable job of improving the property at 1118 Bay Road in the several years since they purchased the property. They've also done a great job of maintaining the property. In short, they have done a first-class job of improving and maintaining the property of approximately 6 acres. We fully support their application at issue in this hearing, both as property owners directly across Bay Road, as well as the property owners of the 12 acres on the south side adjacent to 1118 Bay Road. We recommend approval of their proposal for relief of the zoning requirements for residential use for the existing structures, which have already been in place for several years. They fit nicely with the neighboring use of the property, and as I said, I want to make one correction to a statement that was made just a few minutes ago, that it was approved as a garage. It was never approved as a garage. I owned the property previously. It was approved as an office building for our business, and it's equipped with restrooms and plumbing and so on to fit an office building structure. At that time, we applied for it as an office building, got approval as an office building. The two-car garage in the lower portion was used as a warehouse for our products that we produced to do training. We did consulting and training, and that was our warehouse in the garage. So it's always had, the septic system has been there, the plumbing has been there, the geothermal heat has been there. The plumbing for the bathroom was in there for use of our employees. The only thing they've changed, they put a kitchen in. Other than that, this building is the same as it was when we owned it. It was all approved by the town at the time. So, in short, Laura and I would would recommend that this planning board approve the application of George and Stephanie to use this property for the purpose they've stated. Thank you. And there's 6 acres. That's not like it's a little tiny piece of
Right.
property.
6.7.
Okay, so you're the ones that sold the property.
Yes.
Okay, so you did not have a kitchen in there at that time?
Did not what?
You did not have a kitchen when you owned it in there?
We had a microwave and we had the
Oh, yeah.
bathroom.
Yeah, we had a microwave, we had the bathroom, we had a kitchen area for our employees to
Okay.
have lunch breaks and so on. It's a big piece of property.
Oh, it is, it's nice, but, and you were approved to have this office space when you had the property? It was
Yes,
approved by the-
yes,
Okay.
yes, it was all approved when we had, Vic LaFay was the inspector at the time, and I've got the paperwork where he signed it and approved everything that we did there, and including the original certificate of occupancy.
Could you wipe down the podium and the microphone? Should be a wipe. Just drop your left hand down.
Underneath, there.
Down. John, there you go.
There you go.
You'll learn. Do we have anything written?
There's no written comment.
Is our 2 minutes up? So at this,
I have a written comment if you want it.
oh, sure. So just bring it up to the secretary.
Which is who?
Right there. Mr. Rowe.
That's for me, next to it. Okay. All right, so I, Andrew Sarah, that
On the side.
owns and resides on property,
The other
is
side.
correct?
The other side.
Thank you.
I, Andrew Sarah, that owns and resides on property that directly borders the property of Stephanie Picard, fully supports without objection her application for a variance at 1118 Bay Road, Queensbury. Yours truly, and it's, they reside at 2 Dream Lake Road. I'm gonna put this in the file, okay?
So at this particular time, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with Michelle.
First I wanted to say it's a beautiful property, I drive by it all the time. And appreciate all the work that you put into it. My concern, from a zoning perspective, is any variance we grant runs with the land. And if we were to grant this application for a second dwelling, and if someone else owns the property, they may not use it in the way you are today. So for that reason, I'm not in favor. I'm not, I don't have a problem with the building itself, it's just how it's being used.
Ron?
Well, for me, this is a case of a pre-existing non-conformant. When we went and did our zoning, this house and these buildings were there. I mean, if this gentleman just would have built the deck without coming for a permit, he wouldn't be here spending this money. It's a shame that he has to go through all this expense. But for me, with the size of this acreage, I'd be in favor as presented.
John?
Yeah, I agree with Ron. It's definitely pre-existing. We've heard proof of that. And the only thing I'd be against is if it becomes a wedding destination or something for the barn, and they're using that house as a rental, that type of thing. But I have no problem the way it's being used now. Just in the future, not to be used as a wedding destination type thing. So I'd be on board with the application as is.
Roy?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement with the previous 2 board members that this is a pre-existing condition, but I would be in favor of it if we can condition the variance that it not be used as a rental or anything that looks like a residence.
So if we, condition it as no Airbnb in the second dwelling, you guys would support that? Jim?
Yeah, I think, this is an instance where we have an older structure that's been there since the 1800s, obviously, and it's repurposing it for a useful purpose. I mean, no one likes to let just something sit there and not be used, so I would be in favor of the variance.
Kathy?
Yeah, I'm kind of liking the pre-existing angle on this. It's a very, we've turned people away before. But this is a very large lot. It was there before, currently got approvals. I could support it with those conditions. Maybe even go a little further in some way and saying only for the use of the primary occupants of the primary structure, something like that. So or I don't know how far we want to go.
Well, see, that's hard to enforce, where the Airbnb, I think, is a much more enforceable restriction on the property. Would staff agree?
Yes.
How though, may I ask, would then, I mean, the overall Airbnb rules, are they townwide?
There are no rules.
Right, but the limited restrictions on, I mean, basically it's, anybody can have an Airbnb.
It would be a code enforcement item, until, or the time as the town board adopts a regulation for an Airbnb. But this, you don't want it to be a rental. You've made that clear.
Yeah.
I think that's,
So rental would be a better terminology than Airbnb?
I think you could I would do rental / Airbnb, so that if it is adopted at a later date, then you've covered your bases.
Okay, so, and I feel the same way. Generally,
When I can speak, I'd like to speak.
what's that?
I'd like to add something when I have an opportunity.
Didn't I ask you?
Yeah, but if it would be allowable, I'd like to say something.
Oh, okay. All right, so generally, I don't favor second dwelling on a property. I feel that it causes problems. But in this particular case, I don't feel that the applicant tried to put something over on us. I also recognize that the property is not a typical Queensbury lot. It's plenty of acreage. And so I would support the application with the restriction that the second dwelling not be used as a rental property. Is that okay with the applicant? So go ahead, Michelle.
We have friends that do Airbnb, and I think it's more worth it.
I'd like to amend my response. I would be in favor with a condition.
Okay. Well, you get a second chance to vote.
I know, but make it clear now.
So Ron, would you like to kind of make our motion here?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity.
It's all part of the service we provide.
You're unbelievable. I'd like to recommend we approve area variance AV 29-20, 1118 Bay Road, Stephanie Picard. As per the document prepared by staff, we find there is not an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood nor a detriment to nearby properties, as these buildings have been on this property for years, for a long, long time. The feasible alternatives really are limited. I mean, are limited and have been considered by the board, are reasonable, and have been included to minimize the request. The requested area variance is really not substantial because of the size of the lot. The lot itself is 6.7 acres. There is not an adverse impact to the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood and the district. The alleged difficulty could be suggested that it's self-created, since we look to have one lot, one house. But again, this is 6.7 acres. It's a large lot. These structures have been there for a long, long time. In addition, the board finds that the benefit to the applicant from granting the requested variance would outweigh the resulting detriment to health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community. The board also finds that this variance request under consideration is the minimal necessary. For that reason, I suggest,
Put the,
oh, excuse me, with one condition, I'm sorry, with one, this request for approval is conditioned on one condition, which is that it would never be used as a rental property. With that in mind, I recommend that we approve area variance AV 29-2020.
so I have a motion, can I have a second?
I'll second.
John seconded.
Yep. So I'm gonna add, you use the word rental, and I would suggest you do the slash and say Airbnb to that.
Okay, so we'll make that amendment. Is that all right with you, Ron?
No.
Get out of here then.
And no, I thought we had discussed the fact that we wanted to use rental, which
Well,
would...
rental
which would-
and Airbnb, then we're covered every way.
Well, then what are we gonna go to, rental by owner, RVB what? Yes.
This was the
yes, we will add, in addition to a rental, also an Airbnb.
And so I do want to clarify, and I apologize, so of the 24-page document for the building permit done in 93, page 20 talks about the home occupation, but all the 20 pages before that only discuss the garage. So I stand corrected.
So we have a motion, we have a second from John. Call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hayward,
Yes.
Mrs. Hamlin,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhl,
Yes,
Mr. Henkel,
Yes.
Mr. Yuriko,
Yes.
Mr. Underwood,
Yes.
Mr. McCann.
Yes. Congratulations. Do you want your paperwork here?
Okay. She says I need it, so I want it.
So we got a little bit of a dilemma here. The BOCES representative is not here yet. Are you the BOCES? Yes, we are. So I agreed to wait for a few minutes for John.
10, 15 minutes, he would be here, about 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
Thank you.
is this a local agreement you made, Mr. Chairman?
I did.
Is it a board agreement?
He's coming over from his palatial mansion over here to the east.
Walk here.
Have you been over to West Mountain? Are they talking about open?
They're going to open, but I just was looking at the restrictions for Killington, and they're extensive.
Gonna have to put your clothes on outside? or-
No bags in the lodge, gotta put your boots on outside, no buses, half capacity everywhere. So I'm trying to figure out what they're gonna do on a three-person lift, so you're only allowed a person and a half on a triple.
That's crazy.
So I guess you gotta bring a little person with you or something.
Well, I'll tell you, with my son's facility, the hockey puck, right? They have to get dressed outside, and the player walks in with his skates, puts them on inside, and the parent takes the bag and walks it around the building, because they come out that way. It's
Oh.
in one, out the other.
You have to have, to get in the parking lot, you have to have a reservation. So you have to call ahead. All ticketing is done online, no ticketing locally.
If
So-
they would put tents outside with some kind of heaters to keep it, like 40, 45, 50 degrees. I mean, to get there,
Yeah, that's, so, that, they think that the more outside you are, the better you are. Or if you're in your car, you're, confined.
I mean, what you're saying is you're gonna be sitting outside your driver's door, putting your boots on, right?
Yeah,
Well, even the schools that are having sports right now, are gonna have sports, aren't even allowing them to use the locker rooms. The lockers are locked, and
Wow.
the kids that are playing soccer and stuff can't even go into school anymore.
Yeah.
They have to get dressed in the cars, like you said, or
Yeah.
Fire department.
Crazy.
Down there.
But, in the wintertime, when you're skiing, you really need the lodge to thaw out.
Yeah, right.
In between, you're not gonna be out there for 4 hours straight. A cup of hot chocolate.
Well, maybe it'll change by then.
well,
Hopefully.
so initially, they aren't even gonna, only pass holders and icon people. And then they'll
I'm gonna,
eventually.
I'm gonna interrupt you, so I'm gonna suggest that we,
Well, that's right, so we can read it into the record?
yeah, we can read that into the record, but then we can pause our meeting so that we're not recording your conversation.
Oh, okay. Tell Marie to X all that stuff out.
She will.
So, so our next applicant is AV 30-2020, and it's William and Kathleen Bosey, 53 Assembly Point Road.
The applicant proposes demolition of an existing 2,537.3 square foot floor area to construct a new home of 3,065.3 square foot floor area. The project includes construction of a detached 384 square foot garage and associated site work for a new home, stormwater, landscaping, patio areas, and driveway. The site plan for the new floor area is a CEA, hard surfacing within 50 foot of the shoreline and shoreline buffer. Relief requested for setbacks, FAR, and permeability. And that's per section 179-3-040. Dimensional requirements. The applicant proposes a new home to be located 49 feet from the shoreline where 50 foot is required. 5.1 feet from the north side and 8 feet from the south side where a 12-foot setback is required. Permeability is proposed to be 66.6% where 75% is required. The floor area is proposed to be 3,065.3 square feet, 32.1%, where the maximum allowed is 2,098.8 square feet, 22%. In making a determination, the board shall consider, one, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby property be created by the granting of this area variance. The project may be considered to have a minor impact on the neighboring properties as the construction of the home is 10% greater than allowed on the site. Two, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue, other than an area variance. The feasible alternatives may be possible to meet the requirements of the waterfront residential zone. Three, whether the requested area variance is substantial. Relief may be considered moderate relevant to the code. The north side relief is 6.9 feet, south side is 4 feet, shoreline is 1 foot. The floor area is 10.1% in excess and permeability is 8.4 less permeable for the site. Four, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. The project as proposed may be considered to have minimal to no impact on the environmental conditions of the site or area. The project includes a new septic system and the drinking water that is drawn from the lake is to remain. Five, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. The project as proposed may be considered self-created. Staff comments. The applicant proposes to construct a new home in the waterfront residential zone that includes site work, new septic system, and a new garage. The applicant has indicated the new home is in similar location as the existing home. The plans show the new home location, including elevations and the floor plans, and the board may have an additional discussion about the relief requested. And then now, this time, the motion by the Queensbury Planning Board, based on its limited review, identified the following area of concern. One, the increased FAR request, which was explained by the client's need for handicap accessibility. That was adopted September 15, 2020 by a 5-2 vote, or a 6-1 vote. I'm not sure if Mr. Valentine was listed as both ayes and nays.
It should be 5-2.
Okay.
Can I ask for a clarification from staff? You know, if we have a 22% floor area ratio and we go to a 32% floor area ratio, isn't that a 50% gain in size, not a 10% gain? I mean, if you were allowed a 2-gallon bucket and you ended up with a 3-gallon bucket, you would be.
Right, so what I did was I did 22% or 32% minus the 22, that's where I came up with the 10% increase, 10% over.
So we're claiming you're misleading us.
It's a payoff.
So if you hadn't included the percent, perhaps that would have been okay. But once you put the percent in there, that kind of is a little misleading, isn't it?
So, but if you take the floor area that it is, so,
You're right, Jim. You're right. It's close to 50%. You wanna look at it.
966 square feet more than allowed.
It's almost 1,000 feet, so.
But that's almost 50, that's 50%
Right.
greater than what's allowed.
Right. Guess there's both ways of looking at it, you could say. It sounds better the other way.
Downplays it the other.
So what you can do is take a pause. John said potentially 10 minutes. Is that,
From this particular time?
yeah.
All right, so anybody that has to go to the bathroom or get up and walk around,
So
make
you
sure
take-
you have your mask on.
Right.
Movement means mask.
Yep.
We call for
You as
drum
the
hug?
chair should say we're taking a pause.
Yeah, okay, so at this particular time, we're taking a pause for 10 minutes to allow the applicant's counsel to arrive on site.
You said 10 minutes, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I did. Well, I didn't say that. John Laverne said it.
So you think it's gonna work, Bill? I mean, it just seems, they want season ticket holders, or, I mean, I can buy the ticket online, right?
Right. But initially, they're not even gonna let you do that. So their opening day, they've already announced is November 14th, which is about 3 weeks later than what they normally would open.
Talking Gore.
No, Gore hasn't announced anything yet. This is Killington.
Killington, okay.
Yeah. And so they're not gonna open just a couple trails the way they normally do. They're not gonna open until they can do top to bottom. So, but they aren't gonna hold their World Cup event. So they're gonna have a lot more resources than normal, but, so yeah, you have to wait and see.
It'll be a limited use. It'll be limited.
So that one that we approved last meeting was the same thing. You guys were on the score on that. That was the point I was trying to make last month.
Yeah. Yeah, so her wording, she had just said by magnitude. All right, what she put the percentage on there, and it's misleading.
John's gonna be trying to get her.
Because that one, that same one we had last week was 34%. And so we should,
Put a lot of it online, so.
you know,
You guys, I didn't,
Plus other things.
you were the deciding. You were kind of led down the road on that. I think Ryan and I ran up against this years ago too, because.
oh, the one that,
The one I put on Herzog.
yeah, well, see, I was thinking that, you know, they eliminated the height one, which is what I was really concerned.
And then one I didn't feel so bad about that you guys approved because they had a 3-car garage, and I think that was previously variance.
Oh, above the closet.
We used to get the historic perspective of the variances that were given.
I didn't.
Then you could see kind of where it was going.
It was all relative, you know, it depends on what, you know, But it's, I'm always at a,
Yeah, so the two.
always near, project that's, really, because they know they're not gonna get it. So they come in, when they come back.
But they ask, but they do come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, just feed the roads.
Or have they eliminated the height of the roof?
Yeah, no, it's still, no, it was,
Yep, it was a road, and two definite houses, so almost all.
Now John and I are the miles. You guys should.
Well, sometimes I feel,
Well, I'll tell you, I'm impressed with the fact that we're all independent. When I see the votes from the planning board, that,
they're just,
there's
they're
no-
just like tin soldiers.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But it's also.
I realize it's, yes, still, that's less than. Well, sheds are both far behind.
I can't imagine.
Well, that's 22 feet. I think that guy, we used to have a property in Trent Road. He came with the same request.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
That was only like 2 years ago, too. I think it's like 36 square foot. Bunch of problems with that, just saying, well, and that's a big, coming back to.
I hope that guy's not, as, kind of obnoxious as his neighbor. See, that guy, next to the neighbor, water.
They built that garage there.
Yeah.
Separate.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking, nice looking garage.
So, that's his daughter, so she's gonna, with a different last name, she'll write a letter.
Or she. So I'm gonna go on the record. I told him, I said, we're under tremendous pressure on these small water. I said, maybe it's time for you to go to the board and see, whether they're gonna raise the FAR from 22 to 25 or something. He said, he's gonna take it to the board, so, but, I think on the smaller lots especially, you don't wanna raise the FAR for the big lots, because then it just biggers everything. And then you're gonna have even more substantial.
I see the one guy who started the, Wayfair, and moved, knocking down.
Yeah, he sold it for 1.8 million. It was the back. That was on board, Steve was in charge of it.
so when this person comes to put a new sign, you're already doing, you're already doing, the remodeling, so you gotta try to get them soon.
So they're, is that something 32?
Yeah.
They're not changing all the stores to.
No, but it's changing this one.
Oh, they are, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's already under, I'm just waiting for their new signs, they always come from new signs.
This isn't gonna have any commercial underneath it.
This one.
Across the road. It's supposed to.
What time do we give them,
Supposed to be all residential.
we worked on
that so many times, I can't remember. I think they eliminated all the commercial.
They're not filling, look at Malta, they can't fill it.
So the last I knew
Look
it
at
was.
Saratoga, it's all empty.
It's gonna be more around restaurants and stuff.
It's gonna be buried alive.
60% of the businesses that, were closed for COVID are gonna stay closed permanently.
Except for the restaurants.
Oh, yeah, I mean, so I go, I have to say, the Harvest, I go there every Sunday night, and they're doing pretty darn well with their 50%. I talked to, one of the people that works there.
And what happens when they can't eat outside anymore?
They don't have outside.
I know they don't. There's a lot of places that are counting on the outside, plus
So what
As soon
the,
as the weather closes down,
What
it's
the-
gonna change everybody's
what the
bottom
waitress,
line.
who, you know, lives on the credit frequently, so that he's making the same money now, like he used to.
That's because people are being generous too because of the situation.
But the other thing she said is that they just don't have as much there.
Yeah, they must have the same wage, just a few, less waitresses.
Right, and more,
Half
right,
the, half the.
right.
Half the staff.
There's the same amount of tables they were before.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's, she said basically it hasn't really affected her, but,
They're a
but,
different type of business.
right, but
Harvests.
overall business, you know, that's 50%. They're just not doing that line of the business anymore.
They're
So,
probably doing better takeout, a lot more takeout.
well, you know, but we approved that expansion to
Yeah.
do their pickup, and they never did it. So we'll have to go back
Right.
to,
Lots of people.
I would think
everybody's
everybody's,
done to put the property.
I would think everybody's gonna be looking.
Like the owners, like managing from down.
Florida. Yeah.
yeah. So what, if you look in there, there's, little cameras, and so they
She can
watch
watch
the business.
She's
from,
taught,
down
she's
at
taught
Florida.
us.
I used to know Phil's father, and Phil, I used to play golf with Phil, and he was my neighbor.
He has a spouse that's here.
Oh, yes.
He's better with his first wife. You ever see her? She's pleasant lady. She's a nurse. She's a real nice lady. She had two
You,
kids.
you should have heard them out on,
She's
two daughters, they have forms in the house, and she'd be gone to the kids. Oh, my gosh. I got to put my nose here.
You gotta put your earmuffs on.
Well, his first wife was sweet. That's why I worked here. You know, it's kind of sad. We won't see Mary Stark anymore coming to our meetings, you know? And that's sad. People get to, Stillwater's apartments.
Oh, really?
And that's sad.
I used to see her running on the bike trail. Yeah, you're right, and,
Keep that in place.
so they
Was they
both-
sold it to the chain?
No, they lost. No, the Mohican.
Oh, they lost
I
my
said,
son.
Shabbat came, said, hey, if you don't have the 21 grand today, you're gone.
Who owned it?
Shabbat.
Who's,
Because Shabbat held it because they needed to tell his out. But of course, they punched out that guy. So they did a lawsuit. And the insurance company only paid about $300,000. The guy won another almost $1 million.
I don't know half the stuff.
So they had to come up.
It's a regular payment
So they
place.
had to come up for 600 grand. They had to help the boys with the hotel. They had lost, so they lost that money. So they were in without the barricade, car show, all that stuff.
Oh, like,
Shabbat said, give me the 21 grand today or else you're out.
Shabbat, the synagogue?
Shabbat, golf courses, bay meadows.
Yeah.
Bogies.
I listened to 1970, I worked at Montgomery Wars, and he was the janitor for Montgomery Wars, and he's the best. Yes.
Remember,
Hostel paper.
What a difference.
Yeah.
Because I remember one day I was up in the third level, I went to the paint department, I was in the third level, and this clean. I look across and there's Shabbat ladies, stuff like holy ladies dressing.
Is this the Montgomery that became TV Data?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to work there.
I used to work at TV Data, maybe he was still sleeping there, I think.
That was a Shabbat story, and now today, look at them.
Let's see, who,
Yeah.
Him and Nims went together, and
How
got
long were we
this
supposed to
still.
wait? 15 minutes. I went into 15, like 25 minutes.
We charge him overtime?
$70
So
an
at some
hour.
point,
Yeah.
So Laura, are we gonna wait it out here, or what are we gonna do?
I'm gonna ask Mr. Bodie. Oh, okay. Hoping that's him.
It's gonna, there's gonna be some, requirements of Mr. Lapper here.
He's taking us to dinner after.
Kiss the pinky ring.
We have to readjourn. I've got one thing to talk to, otherwise we'll.
Told my wife I'd be home at 8 o'clock.
You Told her wrong.
First time I've done it, so I don't know.
You can never predict how long it will.
4 easy projects. I thought you just pulled in. I thought you said you pulled in, no? Yeah, it's either the Porsche or the Mercedes.
That's a good question. Who are we waiting for? John Leffler?
John Lafferty.
Okay, the attorney?
Yes.
And the applicants are here?
Yes.
Okay. And the other guys with the
Oh,
engineering firm?
they're chasing John.
Yep.
That I know.
He's speeding.
John's speeding.
He's
So
speeding.
they just want their,
Yep, there's John. Well, that wouldn't be good if he was not.
You get new equipment this year, Mike?
This weekend.
You get new equipment?
yeah, I'm gonna get pair of boots this year. So I'm gonna get boots this year.
Hear those.
So I'm going out on a limb and I'm gonna
This
get
is off here.
really narrow cork filled lace up, high-end boot. So I'll probably
My
regret
son
it.
said it was crazy. I was in New Jersey, my daughter had a baby, so we were down in New Jersey, so I was away the weekend.
So it's,
But, my son
they're-
said he saw two motorcycles kind of collide.
only thing that's,
The motorcycle
if it's a
flipped
cold
over
winter,
a car and rolled underneath a truck, but the guy got up and walked away.
What are you skiing on?
He said it was crazy. He said people were
We got,
squealing
I've
all
got
over.
several choices.
But
So
thank God for Lake
main
George, they
ski is
needed it.
165, and then I've got a 172
The hotel owner.
mid-width, 88s, and then I got a 170 90, pretty wide.
I didn't think I'd like the wide skis, but it really,
These people had reservations from last year.
Excuse me, Mike? So Mr. Bosey he can start with some of that discussion with you as the board. He would feel more comfortable with John here, but he himself can at least start the conversation with
Okay.
the board.
So, come on up. So you know that we've already read the application into the record. So first, identify yourself for the record.
I'm William Bosey, 53 Assembly Point Road. What we're looking to do is demolish the camp. It's built in, I believe, best I can tell, 1957. It's very in disrepair. We are looking to demolish that, add a garage, and a master suite on the end, or bedroom, not a suite, but a bedroom. And we have a large bathroom in there. That's why that's kind of sticking. My wife was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, so we didn't know that till after we bought the camp, so we made provisions for a bathroom that'll, you can maneuver in, handicap accessible. In that respect, it may be a little bit larger. That's where the extra comes into play. What else can I say? As of now, I mean, we don't retain any of the water that comes off the roof, and we have proposed 3 dry wells, 2 in the front, to maintain all our water. And the permeable area was somewhat reduced with grass where the parking area is on the right by the road. The architect reduced that to give more permeability. The septic system was newly installed in March. The previous system failed, so we had a basic plot plan of what we were going to do, and they accommodated us and put it so that if this were the plan that was accepted, it would, fit for that project. Any other questions I can answer for anyone? Or?
So do we have questions of the applicant?
Yeah, was there thought about incorporating the garage into the house to kind of do away with some of the permeability? I mean, and you,
Incorporate the garage in the house?
into the, part of the house.
That increases.
Well,
You
that would
need
give,
more driveway off the street.
well, use pavers,
No, we
Just
can only,
saying.
because of the height requirement, I guess you can only have the 5-foot crawl space underneath. There's no basement there, so I don't know
yeah, I know it's,
how'd I get in there.
well,
I have a question.
Sure.
Why 49 feet and not 50 off the lake?
That's where the house sits as it is now. That
So
would-
you could move it back a foot?
You're
You're not reusing the old foundation, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But this, where the septic tanks sit, I have to see if that would be accommodate, if that could accommodate that 1 foot.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy to look into that.
Oh, so you're saying you're putting the new dwelling right on top of the old
It's
footprint?
exactly on the same footprint the old building was on. The only dish is where that phantom line is on the back end, where the
Yep.
master bedroom is. That's the additional living space, and everything was moved over to that side. It used to be, now I don't have that up there, but
I see the old drawing.
yeah. Yeah, it's not any wider or any closer to the lake than it was.
Is that the drawing that you're looking for? Or?
No. What the heck was I talking about? Now I forgot.
The location of the original house.
Oh,
The survey?
yeah, the survey map, yeah. I think you did have it up there. If you look at the one that you have, it should have a shadowed or colored line over the existing foundation to the new foundation, which shows that it's right on top of the old one where the old house sits.
That shows it.
Other questions of the applicant? So we have a public hearing advertised. So at this particular time, I'm going to open the public hearing. I'm going to request that anybody who wants to call in from the outside on this matter, give us a call at 518-761-8225 and see if there's anybody in the audience who would like to address us on this particular project. Do we have anything written?
Nope.
This doesn't bother, this doesn't bother me.
So we just have to wait for a couple minutes here. So you can wipe down the podium and
Maybe he
the,
doesn't have to. If he's gonna stay there.
well, that's right. Well, but we don't know if Mr. Lacker's gonna come in,
Well, if
so.
he comes in, then I have locker do it.
It's the previous person
Used to be old.
responsible.
Locker should be lower.
He's pretty good at it, actually.
2000, whatever.
What do you, are you putting in a whole new septic system?
It was put in as a mark, it was installed.
Oh, it's an existing?
Is active at the current time. It's all brand new.
Okay.
It was inspected by,
2019.
what?
It was 2019 it was put in, right?
No, this year.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they finished it in March, I believe, March or April.
Oh, okay.
And we were here just last year for that approval for that.
And the approval was done in 2019, I think.
19,
Yeah.
and it was installed this year.
Sure.
No,
That's my son, Hunter. He's an engineer, so.
we don't know that.
So
Nothing engineer related.
you wanna identify yourself for the
Yeah,
record?
my name is Hunter Bosey. I'm the son of Bill and Kathy. A couple things that I've noticed or just kind of have jotted down here. And it was a few of the points that were brought up last night as well. Is the placement of the property. If you look at the adjoining property owners, they have a very similar layout, especially the one to the left side of the property as a very comparable lot. My parents, as has been stated, are looking to make this their retirement home. It's not a place to have a lot of renters or any renters at all, for that matter. It's
Excuse me, you can sit down, yeah.
it's strictly for their retirement use, and as they both age and
because care may need to be taken if the extra property or extra room and building would also allow for others to help out as that is part of the disease, and having people there and extra room and extra capacity for whatever they may need. But that's all I had.
Okay.
Could I ask him a question?
Sure,
Mr.
absolutely.
Chairman? So Hunter, you're suggesting that this house is for the parents and you're not gonna bring your friends up and have parties, right? I mean, I just state it now because, you know, you're on the
All right,
record now.
yeah, I mean, he doesn't let me, so. No, it's, this is something that they've really been looking
Okay.
at for a long time. It's my mom's dream to
No
live
problem.
on the lake, and that's,
And all the extra bedrooms are just there, just in case, you know,
right, I mean, we have a lot of family come up. We're lucky in that
I'm only
aspect.
kidding. Fine. I have the same situation, Hunter.
Right, so, but that's all.
Thank you. So at this particular time, I'm going to, our 2 minutes up, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to poll the board, and I'm going to start with Kathy.
Yeah, I think that, the permeability is improved, so that's a good thing, but, as much as I understand the need, I wish that the percentage of increase in the FAR was not so much. Although, as I look at the plans for the first floor, considering their need of needing to be on the first floor for, accessibility, I don't see much that could go. So I don't know what the solution is. I would like to see them find a way to reduce the FAR to some degree. And I also agree with the other, board member, if there was any way to push it back to meet the 50. I mean, there's not very much distance given the fact that you're not gonna use the foundation. But the new system you put in, however, the sewage disposal system, I guess, that would be the determining factor, your engineer would have to look at. Yeah, yeah. He's amenable to that, so, I'm still torn on it. Hear what the others have to say first, and see if
So
there's got any.
you're not going to commit yourself?
I can't, no, yeah,
Okay.
I wanna hear
Jim?
the rest of the board.
Yeah, I think this is an example of what we run into here on these smaller lots. I ran into Supervisor Strahl last week, and I explained to him the situation that we're up against with the board. We have a 22% floor area ratio, and I said to him, you know, it would seem that on these smaller lots, we could give an allowance because there's less buildable space than there is on a 1 acre lot or a 2 acre lot or something like that. They're extraordinary in waterfront situations. He said that he was probably going to go back to the town board and ask them to raise it from 22 to 25%, you know, the floor area ratio, but that hasn't been done yet, you know, so I think we're caught between a rock and a hard place here. Last month, when we had that one on Birdsall Road, we were in the same situation. We had a 34.1% floor area ratio on that one, and you guys approved it narrowly last week because I don't think it was brought to your attention that that was 50% larger than what was allowed to be built on that lot. And I think we're in the same situation here. People are gonna have to go back and reinvent themselves because you can't have everything on a big lot that you can have on a small lot and vice versa. And I think that, you know, we have to be careful to ensure that we basically follow the rules and stay within the guidelines as suggested by the code. And so I think that, you know, this one needs to be rethought out. I think that that excessive bedroom on the back there, even though there's a defined need for it, the house could be shrunk down with a smaller great room and a smaller activity room in the front of the house there, and I think you could go back and redesign and come up with something more compatible with the guidelines.
Roy?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jim. I think when you look at the criteria we have to look at, I don't see, I see it having a minor impact on the neighborhood because most of the neighborhood is in the same situation. But there are feasible alternatives, and the area variance requested is kind of a lot. It's we're asking for several variances, and many of them can be at least alleviated somewhat by a smaller design of the house. I don't see it having, I think that the difficulty here was self-created, and I think the variance, well, we don't think it'll have an effect on the environment, but, so I would be against it at this point.
John?
Yeah, I also agree with my board members. It looks like it's tipping a little bit too much. I think you could, if you're gonna not use existing foundation, you could probably get back to the 50 feet if allowable, away from the lake. Also, I think you could decrease the amount of the FAR variance by a little bit. The side setbacks don't really bother me too much. Permeability bothers me a little bit, but it's not a big concern. The FAR variance and the shoreline setback is my concern, so I would not be in favor of it as is.
Ron?
Well, I hate to agree with everybody. No, but I don't think this whole thing was thought out properly. I mean, 1 foot, that it couldn't be moved back. I mean, I think that any architect or engineer that lays this out could have looked at the regulations of the town, and I think it could have made the fit a lot better. So with that in mind, I'm agreeing with my other board members. I would not be in favor of it.
Michelle?
And I'm not in favor as well for all the reasons my fellow board members.
And so the problem that you have here is that you're asking for a lot of variances. You know, we've approved all of them at one time or another, but in this particular case, we're cumulative. So probably the most serious are the floor to area ratio and the permeability. And so I think that for this to be a go, something needs to be done to address those two in particular. And, you know, it could be toned down a little bit by meeting some of the other requirements, like setback from the lake. So I'm going to be a no also. So you're insignificant here, Kathy. So you have a couple choices here. You can ask for a vote, but obviously that's not going to go well. You can ask for a table and take another look at your application here and see if you can reduce the magnitude of the variances requested.
Let me ask you a question. I mean, the garage is actually playing a big factor in this, right?
Sure.
It's adding to, which I've never heard of before, but I mean, that's the law in Queensbury County, but why is that though? Anybody know that? I mean, I've never heard of like a covered porch is considered living space, but wouldn't be too comfortable to sleep out there.
So it's anything that you could potentially enclose and live in. I mean, you could potentially enclose that and heat that, the porch, in sense. And so that's the reasoning behind it.
Well, that seems to be the thing that's tipping the scale. The porches, so. Okay, I mean, that's.
So you're going to ask to table this to,
Yeah, I guess we'll table it.
so what would be his?
So the next mission would be October 15th to be on a November agenda. And so that gives you almost, from now, a little less than 30 days. And I want you to think about it, whether the person that you're working with can do a redesign of that, or if you want to give yourself a little more time and come in for a December meeting so that you have a full thought-out project. And I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Well, hold on a second.
So it's up to you. I mean, is that, I guess I'm asking you.
Yeah, well, I'd say, I guess table it, but I don't see any way I really don't see what I can do with this, knowing my needs down the road.
But at least table it, gives you a chance to, because you can withdraw later, but I would table it.
Yeah, so the question is, do you want to table it to a November meeting or to a December meeting? And if you do the November and it's fine, you can further table to the following month. November then, okay.
So John, could I have a motion?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to table area variance AV 30-2020 until the November meeting.
First November meeting.
And with a, new information due by November 1st?
October
October
October 15th. would-
15th, October 15th.
So I have a motion, can I have a second?
A second.
Roy seconded. Call the vote, please.
Mrs. Hamlin?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhl?
Yes?
Mrs. Hayward?
Yes?
Mr. Henkel?
Yes?
Mr. Eureka?
Yes.
Mr. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. McKee?
Yes. Thank you. So sorry about the wait here. A little unusual, but yeah, I'm kind of disappointed in Mr. Lapper. He's usually pretty good.
Yeah?
So I don't know.
Something must have happened.
Oh,
What
he
happened
was
there?
at he was doing a Zoom meeting with the town of Wilton. And
Oh, okay.
so that, my understanding, that must have carried over, and he hasn't responded yet to my inquiries of, hey, we're almost done. So I'm not quite sure where he's at. So he may be on speaking for the town of Wilton at the moment in a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Well, for the record, I don't.
No, the side setbacks was not a problem.
Did they?
It's pretty good, yeah.
Hey, Mike,
But if you're building new.
excuse me, Mike, you need to adjourn your meeting.
Yeah, so at this particular time, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.